I unenrolled my nephew from the summer camp I'd been quietly paying for since June, the week his mother told the counselor I was just showing off. My nephew Marcus is 8. His mom is my sister Dana, and Dana has been in a rough patch for a while. Like a multi-year rough patch she doesn't really like to talk about. She works, but not steadily. Her ex contributes basically nothing. I try not to make a big deal out of any of it, because she gets defensive really fast. And I've learned that if you say the wrong thing around Dana, you're the villain for a month. So back in May, Marcus mentioned this coding and robotics camp near their apartment. He'd seen a flyer at school and brought it up at a family dinner kind of casually, like he already knew the answer was going to be no. He said something like, "It's probably too expensive anyway." He's 8. 8-year-olds shouldn't already be pre-canceling their own hopes. I looked it up that night. $840 for the full summer session, 3 days a week through August. I signed him up and paid the deposit before I went to bed. I didn't tell Dana right away. I knew how she might take it, so I waited a few days, and then I texted her that I'd gotten Marcus a gift, a summer camp, and that all she'd have to do was drop him off on the days it ran. Kept it casual, low-key. I did not want it to become a whole thing. She didn't respond for almost a day. When she finally did, it was just, "You should have asked me first. Not thank you. Not Marcus is going to love this." Just that. I said I'd already paid, and Marcus seemed excited, so I figured it would be okay. She didn't answer after that. Marcus started the first week of June. He texted me after his second session with this blurry photo of a little robot arm he'd programmed to wave. The caption was just a bunch of exclamation points. I screenshotted it. I heard basically nothing from Dana about the camp for almost a month. I assumed we'd quietly moved past the awkward part. Then my cousin Simone texted me out of nowhere. She said, "Hey, did you know Dana told Marcus's counselor you were only paying for that camp to make yourself look good?" I had her repeat it. Apparently Dana had been at a pickup one afternoon, got into a conversation with one of the counselors about Marcus's progress. The counselor said something about how great it was that his family was so invested in his education. And Dana, I don't know, maybe she felt embarrassed, maybe she was just in a mood, said something like, "Oh, that's just his aunt. She does stuff like this to show off. It's more about her than him." The counselor mentioned it to the program director. Simone's kid was in the same camp, and Simone overheard something in the parking lot. By the time it got back to me, who knows how much had been added, but the core of it was Dana's words, not anyone else's. I called Dana that evening around 7 p.m. I told her what I'd heard and asked if it was true. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "I said it was a generous gift. I didn't say anything wrong." I said, "You told the counselor I was showing off." She said, "I said you like to do things like this. That's not the same thing." I said, "Dana, you told someone at Marcus's camp that I paid for it to make myself look good." She pivoted fast. Said I was always like this. Said I give gifts in a way that makes people feel small. Said Marcus talks about me constantly and it's exhausting for her. Said I wasn't his mom and I needed to remember that. I stayed pretty calm. I said, "Okay," and I got off the phone. The next morning I called the camp. I told them I'd had a family change and needed to unenroll Marcus from the program. They were really nice about it. Said they could offer a partial refund for the remaining sessions. I took the refund. I didn't tell Dana. She found out 2 days later when she went to drop Marcus off and the front desk told her he wasn't enrolled anymore. She called me 3 times in a row. When I picked up, she was already going. She said, "You pulled him from camp because of one conversation?" I said, "I pulled him because you told his counselor I was doing it for attention." She said, "So you punished my son to get back at me?" I said, "I stopped paying for something you were embarrassed for people to know I was paying for. That seemed like what you wanted." She hung up. Marcus called me that night from Dana's phone. He asked if he could still come back. I told him I'd figure something out for next summer. He hasn't been to camp since.